So everybody, it's wonderful to see you. As you might know, the one person, or I might notice the one person that isn't here yet is Peter. And the reason being is that Peter is currently in Morocco, and he said he was hopefully having the Wi-Fi connection that he needs to join us. But that's not entirely sure, apparently, because he's not here yet. So what I would suggest, as always, is that we just take a few minutes at the beginning of our session, our time together, to just orientate ourselves around, why am I even here? What is something that is alive in me right now? And that, as you know, can be any question about source work, about money work, about creating love in business. And my aim would be that we explore this together. So, wonderfully, Tom is here. So, any questions about source, we can also direct to Tom. We have a ton of different money experts with us here today. So, I'm basically very confident that we will be able to have a fruitful conversation together. And hang on, let me just quickly look at my list here. I would just say maybe to have a short 9 minutes or something in breakout groups to just share something, arrive with somebody. Have you had your voice in the room once? Oh, look, here's Peter. Look at that. So I have a moment to check in with Peter while you do that, and we shall see you back here in 9 minutes. So just share anything that comes to your mind, and say hi to another wonderful soul here. We'll see you in just a few minutes. Bye. People are beginning to dribble back. Wonderful to see. So now we do have Peter online. However, we just found out that the connection is a bit sketchy. So Peter, do you want to at least kick us off with an opening greeting?
Opening greeting to everybody, and hope all's well. I'm talking from 40 degrees in a wonderful place in Morocco right now, and in the middle of a money work seminar with a Moroccan group who've been telling me that things in Morocco are not like anywhere else, and that's what I hear everywhere else I go. So we're all in the same club. So hello, everybody.
Hi. Wonderful. Okay, people, you know the drill. So firstly, for anyone who might not know me, my name is Nadia. In short, I'm the CEO of ConsciousU, and we create blended learning programs to scale inner work, consciousness development, and combine that with social learning in teams. Peter is my longstanding mentor and friend, and we have written a program together called CU Money for anybody who's interested in diving deeper, but there will be information about that. So that will be the short intro. And now let's get to the interesting bits, which is, what is cooking for you? What are your questions? And even maybe just from an area of what are your concerns right now, right? So you may not have a specific question, but what is alive in you at this moment in time? And the rules of the game are, I will wait for a few seconds to see if somebody raises their hand. And otherwise, if you have your camera on, I will take the liberty and just call on you and see what you have to say. And if you really don't want to be spoken to, I will be quiet. But we have a volunteer. Tom, you are on.
I got straight in. Hey everyone. Oh, hey Peter.
Hey, Tom.
I would love to hear you talk a little bit out loud about some of what we were exchanging by email, about what I would say is almost like the end game of your work, about will money become obsolete one day, or will the source principles just become obsolete and not needed? If we really looked ahead and things played out the way you either expect or hope, what do you imagine sort of in the long term for all of this work?
Well, we have been exchanging on this very recently, and my take on it is that money, one way of looking at money is that it's like a surrogate. I use this English word. I hope all the German people and other people will understand this. It's like a an in-between mechanism for while we are not 100% enlightened in consciousness, while our collective consciousness and individual consciousness is not totally there, we need money. Why do I say that? Because I think if we were all so interconnected as we all talk about, and also conscious as we aspire for, then ultimately, theoretically, we wouldn't need money, because when somebody needs a pair of shoes, somewhere else in the world, there would be a shoemaker making a pair of shoes for them without any planning, without any strategy. But the person needing the pair of shoes would just happen to find their way automatically to the shoemaker. And in that case, the shoemaker would love making the pair of shoes. They'd make the perfect pair of shoes for the person who needs to be wearing them. And we'd all be so, you could even say, telepathically connected, that money would become obsolete in this kind of utopic world. Now, how close are we to that? I think we are probably about 1,000 years away or something like that. But it's a nice vision or aspiration, and it puts money in maybe in a sort of other context than the context that we're looking at normally. And I like to see our work with money in terms of the money work, in terms of reclamation of projections on money, and what comes out of that in terms of practice is that we can use the present money systems, the present money we have, and the art, or the, let's say the aspiration with this is to have love flow with money, whatever the currency happens to be, whether it's a conventional currency, whether it's Bitcoin, whether anything. And I think for me, this is the journey, which might be a very long journey towards money becoming obsolete, which you're talking about. And theoretically, I see as, you know, a future possibility long into the future. Regarding source work, I also see something similar. The utopic vision is that we don't need source. We're also connected to one another in the same kind of way as I've just described, that things are just happening like in nature automatically, and nobody's in charge of anything, and we're all living in a utopic world together. Now, again, I think that's possible with this individual and collective level of consciousness, which we're all aspiring towards. But I still think we're very, very, very far away from that. And the best we can do is to actually create that kind of experience of togetherness and collaboration by using the source principles and having what I call the we, which everybody is hoping, wanting for, emerge. It's an emergent quality when everybody is focused on their I and their vision, individual vision simultaneously. So we do have experiences of this, utopic situation already, particularly when you see a wonderful conductor playing a Beethoven symphony, or a team, a champion team which is producing magic. We have experiences of this, and I think everybody looking has had an experience of this kind at one time or another during life. But to pretend that we're anywhere near that, when you look at what's happening in the world right now, I think it feels like an illusion right now. And I seriously question anybody who is claiming that they're having that experience of no source at the present time. So that's my short or not so short summary, Tom.
Yeah, thank you, Peter. It's really nice to hear that, and it strikes me that we might see it in little pockets. So I'm even thinking about festivals like Burning Man or Borderland in Sweden that I'm going to this summer, where it's so oriented around source. So if you want something to happen there, you have to make it happen, and this festival just comes together with a very lean, centralized operation, but still some centralized operation to distribute.
That's it.
They don't sell tickets, but they sell a membership of the borderland. But then if you want a camp, though, you want something to happen, it has to be sourced. And I think these things are sort of somewhere between where most of the culture is today and where we could be, but still a long way off.
It's very funny you mentioned Burning Man, because one of my participants here in Morocco has been to Burning Man 7 times.
Mm.
And he says that's the only place he feels free. And he says it's absolutely horrific each time to come back to Morocco.
Yeah.
And I've been telling him what he needs to do is actually create that experience, of course, when he, in his own life and within himself, when he comes back to Morocco. And Burning Man may give the impression when one goes there that there's nobody in control of it. It's free for all and freestyle for all. But of course, as you're saying, there's somebody who's set it all up and somebody who's holding that whole field while it's happening.
Yeah, I think that's really true. And I think the other thing that really strikes me, particularly around, and I think in what you describe, you can really see how money and source are really intertwined. I think when we get there with money, we'll be getting there with source, and it will probably happen at the same time if that moment ever comes. But I think,
and I understand from him, it's not cheap. It's not cheap to Sorry.
There's like a near enemy almost, that this desire to work without money comes from a negative projection onto money. And I think you have to transcend that first, and then you will eventually be able to be part of the movement to make money obsolete. But anyway, Nadia's joined in the chat.
Yeah, but not because I wanted to tell you that you need to stop, but rather because I just came across something, Peter, that sort of speaks to how far we're still removed from this place where maybe we won't need money anymore. I was just alerted by a friend of mine about an interesting course called Finance for a Regenerative Economy. And it's by David Fullerton, John Fullerton. It looks like an amazing course. However, when I looked at the course structure, part 1 is investment, part 2 is money banking systems, part 3 is systemic philanthropy, and part 4 is policy framework and recommendations for financial reform. And as usual, there is nothing about consciousness development in respect to money, about our relationship to money. And I keep being sort of surprised how little that is still part of the conversation that we're having about money. And I wondered what the two of you observe in your respective fields and what you think of that.
May I add something to that, Nadia?
Sure.
Christina speaking.
Christina, you're just on the phone, right? You don't have a video, is that correct?
No, I don't. Apologies for that. I'm driving. I had a McKinsey article coming in today saying, why is GDP growing and why are companies not seeing that growth? And I didn't go through the article, but I sent it to Peter and I said, because probably it's not worth it anymore. Today, the money we have is just not worth what it was, and I think maybe that will trigger ultimately something about that, right? I do feel the levels of consciousness are raising fast around us. Maybe I'm mistaken, but I do feel that the levels of consciousness are raising. Sorry, I just wanted to to say that there's also something around that, right? People realizing that that we are living in much different conditions than we were in the past, and that will trigger action, I would assume.
Yeah, any thoughts, Peter, Tom?
You want to go for Tom first?
Yeah, certainly. I think from what I'm seeing, I think that it's still a massive hole, and it drives me crazy all the time seeing sort of thought leadership pieces and people talking about money, but without the awareness that it's a creation of our collective consciousness, that we're not dealing with this material substance, and the discourse is still so limited, I think, when that's the case. Like, for example, when people are talking about things like energy use and natural resource use, where they're talking about things that really are in the material world and how that's very linked to the money system. Like, there's a very direct relationship in the current system between GDP and energy use, for example. But they almost see the two things as being somehow equal, whereas, energy we can really study in the world of physics. But money, we can only tell stories about it. And there seems to be almost an equal fear and concern about sort of financial collapse as there is around collapse of energy systems like peak oil or ecological collapse. And actually, they're two completely different beasts. So I'm still seeing a huge gap in awareness. But what I am also seeing is that, at least in my own experience, when I'm talking about this stuff, I'm not being seen as crazy anymore. I think, 10 years ago, when I first started talking about this, when I first encountered Peter's work, there was far less readiness, whereas I think now I find less resistance when you do offer it to people, that people are ready for it. But I don't know whether that's just my bubble and what's around me, but that's some of what I see. I don't know about you, Peter.
Well, I'd agree in terms of the advance of consciousness and how it's feeding into our work, of course. And the work you set up in Japan has been phenomenal with this, Tom, in terms of the great readiness and appetite there for it, which I've just received. But generally speaking, of course, even after my 40 years, the work is still considered pioneer and marginal. In most cases, and not even recognized at all in so many different situations. But one thing I'd just like to bring in here, where I feel there is an incredible ignorance is the right word, is that even in the formal descriptions of the monetary system, even the Bank of England is describing nowadays how commercial banks create money. And that is the largest amount of money created. But it's actually not true. Because if you look at how money is created from, for example, mortgages, the initiative comes always from the borrower. So actually the big ignorance is, or the biggest ignorance, is that people are not aware that they are creating money.
Yes,
creating
yes,
money.
Exactly. Yes.
So this is an enormous piece of ignorance, even amongst those that consider themselves experts in the money system. And if you really look at the significance of that, it's massive, because if everybody was aware that they are actual creators of money, this would be a further advance in consciousness at another level. And so I think this information needs to come out. And I hope you're hearing this, because it looks like you've frozen on my screen. Hello? Hello?
We hear
you.
We're hearing you.
Yeah, we
Oh,
hear
good.
you.
Oh, good. I'm finished.
We're hearing you. And I put, Tom, anything else you want to add at this point?
No, you can boot me off.
Okay, I'll boot you off, and I booted Jackson on. So hi, Jackson.
Hey, so my question is, I've done CU Money back in 2021. So I've heard you talk many times, but I wanted to ask you, you've said that as you do the money work, progressively become more tuned into yourself, and you start becoming more aware of your own life path. And more as you do that, you've said as you do that, it just becomes too painful to do anything else. And so you start walking your life path rather than, let's say, the money path. Oh, can you hear me?
I think Peter might have frozen. Continue with your question, Jackson, and we'll see. We'll find enough people to answer that.
I wanted to ask if he or you, or maybe even Tom, have any like exemplary stories of people going through that process of progressively recognizing their life path and moving off the path that they were on previously.
Peter, did you catch that?
I think if you can hear me, I got the question, but I think it's one, because of my poor connection, I'd love Tom to answer. Maybe he can share his own path with this.
Yes,
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can speak to some of my own experience.
Hello.
We can hear
Tom,
you, Peter. Yeah, I'm ready to go.
Suggesting Tom answers this question.
Yeah.
Hello.
You could just mute Peter for a moment, Nadia.
Yes.
Yeah, I could speak to some of my own experience. So, like many people, when I first got into the money work, I had some really strong projections around freedom and security, some of the most common ones. And actually, the thing that was most humbling for me is I found it harder to reclaim those projections than almost anybody I've since worked with. I was really, really stuck. And I think even when I met Peter face to face, even at times, he was quite stuck with me. So I really recognize how hard it can be. And it was just the practice of coming back to it that eventually got me there. But some really sort of practical examples. I remember a moment in 2017 when I'd really reclaimed these projections around security and freedom, and I went and lived in a countryside life experiment with my wife and our baby at the time. And I was doing my coaching work remotely, and by a strange sequence of events, some of the coaching engagements that I had came to a natural end, and that was all great. And then the work that I was expecting to start didn't come on stream. And suddenly I was earning something like 200 English pounds a month. So my income suddenly dropped to next to nothing. And so based on the projection kind of model, I would have panicked and scrambled around and tried to win some work, which I would have been able to do, I'm sure. But instead, I just thought, oh, well, that's fine. That just is what it is. And I didn't panic, and instead just started working on one of my other projects, which is my open source software product, Maptio, and just really doubled down on that. And then in that period, it became really creative and really productive. And we got the first version of the product live, and that turned into a business. So you can see these little forks in the road. Where do you go down the path of fear, or do you go down the path of being more creative? And then the second thing that I can share is that I realized once I'd reclaimed these positive projections onto money, security, and freedom, that actually the amount of money I had seemed to be going down. And maybe that was a bit of a symptom of it in 2017. And so it came into my awareness that maybe I had a negative projection onto money as well, that I couldn't identify, because I thought the money is just flowing away, and I wasn't sure why. And it was one of these very interesting ones that it took me a while to discover it, and then I found it hiding in plain sight, and it was incredibly obvious to me. And it was just that I had this projection that money was boring. And that was a real surprise to me as someone who's worked in sales, and I love bringing money in, and I can really do that. But then part of me just like, it's boring. And the way that would impact me, very simple things. I'd sometimes do the work, but I would notice I couldn't actually be bothered because it was too boring to go into my billing system and have to copy and paste someone's company name and address and issue the invoice and get paid for it. And so there was something very interesting going on there. And it was incredibly liberating to just recover that if I'm projecting that onto money, that I am boring. And that was really wonderful for me, a real liberation, not only with money, because sometimes I notice it coming up and just say, yeah, I just need to do the boring work of making sure I'm billing for what I'm doing. and collecting the cash in and not accidentally pushing the money away because I think it's boring to do that. But it was a real liberation much more deeply in my life, because as you know, the money work is just a way in to this self-development or self-awareness work. And it's not fundamentally really about money at all. But I realized once I'd reclaimed being really boring, and I fucking love it, I realized that, you know, for example, I fairly quickly completely gave up drinking alcohol. And I didn't have an alcohol problem, but I realized part of why I drank was because the story in my culture and growing up was that you're boring if you don't drink, or if you go to a party and you don't get drunk, you're boring. And so now I don't say, well, no, I can be interesting, you know, even without drinking. I'll just go, no, I can be really boring. And maybe I won't bother going to the party, or maybe I'll go and I'll just talk to the one person I know, and I'll leave early laughing to myself at how boring I am. So that's been a real liberation for me. So those are a couple of things for you. And I've seen, you know, many similar things with people I've worked with. And Nadia, I'm sure you've got 1,000 of these stories from CU Money, and maybe others have as well. But that's some of what I've experienced.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you so much. That was a great story. And, you know, on that note, and Tom, you and I have talked about that before. Let me share the slightly baffling and amusing story of my reclamation work, because when I first met Peter, you know, whenever that was 18 years ago, in the workshop, I wrote the statement, money is a man's thing. And as you all know, right, when you write a money statement like that, the first job is you take the word money and you replace it with an I, right? So the statement then was, I am a man's thing. Now, that created a massive issue for me at the time, because I had just entered my relationship with my now wife, Olga, my first gay relationship, having only ever dated men, right? So to be sort of reminded of my heterosexual past through money was majorly confusing. I did not know what to do with that. And to be honest, at the time, Peter didn't have the idea with the polarities that you also go to the other side. So therefore, I was a bit stuck in the I am a man's thing loop, and I didn't know what to make of that at all. So I let it sit. Honestly, at that moment in time, Peter, with all the amazing energy that you brought and my falling in love with Peter, I didn't quite know how to manifest anything from that in my life. So fast forward a few years, Peter had now created, which I always symbolize like this, the polarity work, really, with looking at the one side and looking at the other side. So suddenly I realized the other side is I am a woman's thing. And when I put the two together, right, my bisexuality in a way was recognized, and both of these sides are true for me. And that has been my main journey in the last 20 years of my relationship, to come to terms with that I'm both things. And then Tom was visiting me a few years back, and I told him the story, and then Tom had this wonderful impulse and created this little graphic that's maybe, Tom, you can describe what you did there, because it was so beautiful.
Yeah, I was at the Museum of Modern Art in Berlin when I came and visited you, and they had some interactive exhibitions where you could make an artwork. So out of different text patterns. So I think I put in a little said I'm a woe in brackets man's thing, and made Nadia a little piece of art.
Exactly. So it was this flowing text that changed between woman and man's thing, and that, it just symbolized that so beautifully. So sometimes the reclamation process can take us to really weird places. But what I can say is, as a result of that, and probably other things I've done in my life, it has shifted. Now I rest very comfortably in this I'm a man's thing, I'm a woman's thing. And I'm good with money, right? I'm just very comfortable in it coming and going. Or as somebody that I met this past week, he said in Hawaii, somebody once shared with him the sentiment of, well, it's if I don't have money, it's not that money isn't there, it's just not currently with me. Right. And I thought that was such a wonderful way to describe that if we see money as something that flows through people's lives, then when I don't have money, I don't currently have it. It's not with me, but it's somewhere. And now I have the trust that when I need it for a specific reason, it will somehow find its way to me. And I'd love to hear your thoughts. Oh, yes.
I just found it. I haven't looked at that for years. I don't know if you can see it, but it says woman's thing. That was
Tom, can you send that again to me? Because I still have it somewhere in my computer, but I couldn't find it the other day.
I'm going to text it to you now, Nadia.
So we lost Peter again. There you go. Jackson, what is that bringing up for you, those stories?
And one thing that's really interesting about yours is that, I mean, Tom's was very much about work still and money directly, but yours, it's just like, it took you somewhere completely different about this whole other multi-decade area of your life.
Yeah, and maybe just to connect the dots, right? Because my relationship, this discovery, you know, initially it didn't have any sort of immediate ties to money for me, right? It took me a while to even connect the dots and understand what this is about. But ultimately, I would say the work that we do with money work always has to do with what are the rooms within your internal house that you have boarded off, right? That are no-go areas for you. And if there are rooms like that, it ultimately costs you money because you keep having to check the locks, right? You keep having to not look when you walk past that door. So all of that is sucking life energy that you can use to create something else in your life. So in a roundabout way, I do think it has affected my relationship with money, even if the connection isn't so straightforward as with money is boring, which I also think is a fantastic sentence.
Yeah. Oh, that reminds me of when Tom, you mentioned the boring one. I know I've felt that, and with other people, I've heard it as well, where they really want to make more money, but they feel that they, because of who they are, they just can't, because the people that they see as capable of making a lot more money are capable of just doing boring things, and they're not.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Jackson, for the question. Peter, any comments? I don't know how much you caught of our conversation.
I'm afraid I was cutting in and out and didn't catch much, but what I call, yes, I would, you know, I liked what I heard. I was just wondering, seeing Eleonora on screen. Hi, Eleonora, whether you wouldn't like to share a bit of your story. Hello, did you hear that? Oh, I'm cutting out again, I think.
She's
Eleonora, you're muted.
Eleonora. Nadia, did you hear that?
Hi.
Hi, Eleonora.
I am from my bedroom, you see.
Hi.
I took from my bedroom. So it was really, really interesting to listen to you now. Because really, I think my work on money with you, Peter, and since the last years, I've produced fruits, because I was in a very difficult change in life. It takes me 3 years now to move to what I really love. So it means giving training about consciousness and helping people to be more conscious with spiral dynamics. And I'm starting a doctorate at university and doing research on that field, in this field. So I'm starting new projects. And when I was in this difficult moment without a lot of money, I could pay my bills. I don't know, magic. I always find some money coming in. And I was not in panic at all. So I was earning a lot of money before. And I was not in panic at all. And that's the first time of my life. I said, okay, it will come. And when you said these sentences, I will find, the money will find his way to me, because I'm doing what I love. It is exactly what I'm experiencing now. So I really can thank you a lot, Peter, for what you gave me of this process of working on myself. And that's why I was a little bit cut off the society for a little while. I was antisocial. I was finding myself really deeply. And so I took my time to take care of my son, because I adopted a child 7 years ago. And so it took a lot of my energy. And during these 3 years, I really go inside, deep inside myself, and taking care of him. That was my only goal. And I have to say, now I feel quite ready to go to the world with what I learned in these 3 years. And really, I appreciate sharing now. I was not ready to share. I was too much in my own contemplation for a while. Yes.
Thank you, Eleonora. What I was thinking of you and why I asked you was actually, we knew each other before you adopted your child, because you took part in the masterclass with intentions around your business in the masterclass.
Yes.
And actually the masterclass, what it produced was quite surprising for all of us. It actually produced you adopting this child, a totally different result than the original intention. But I don't know, but I think this work did a lot of in that too, didn't it?
Yes, and for my business or work, I don't know for what, because I'm a specialist in learning and development. So really to go deeply now in what I want, in what I feel, it's like a connection with my past, with my childhood, with everything is connected. You know, there is like a red line, completely clear now, from what your mission of life, the experiences I've done in my life, spiritually or affectively, all the experiences work, you know, everything is aligned.
Beautiful.
Sorry,
Thank you so much.
I don't express myself so well in English, but I feel this connection with everything.
Yeah.
And I see now I do a lot of coaching to people who are really in this research for consciousness, for more consciousness. So I see this awakening of the society, of people around me that are younger than me, and they're really looking for more meaning, more intensity, more passion. And I help them already with coaching sessions to arrive to this full potential. So I'm emerging myself, and help others to emerge.
Great. Eleanor, thank you so much for this. I'm going to unpin you. And Jackson, are you, was that sufficient in terms of a response to your question?
Yeah. I mean, I love talking about this, so I could obviously listen to more, but
we have another hand up. That's therefore I would probably swap places right now so we get cast as well. Hang on. And wait, cast, where do I have you here? And Tom, I'll take us off too.
Thank you. I have a question for all of the reclamation work practitioners among you. When I entered into this reclamation work with you, Nadia, 1.5 years ago or so, it was simple because I wrote these cards with statements about money, and lots of things immediately triggered something within me, strong emotions. And I remember almost breaking down when I said, I'm a failure in a session with you. But now, if there's something that somehow annoys me in another person and I try to reclaim it, then no, there are no strong feelings there. Yeah, it's somehow boring to do this because I'm not sensing anything within me. The sensations are so weak. So how do you go identifying the things, the deeper projections, when they don't ring any big alarms?
Peter, were you following this?
Yes, I followed it. So I think where you need to go first, my suggestion, is to accept the fact that you're not feeling very strong. So it sounds like you have some expectations from your previous experiences.
Mhm.
And Cass, if I may
As
add,
if they should
exactly.
be repeated.
Sorry, Peter, are you done?
Carry on, Nadia.
Okay. Cass, I do remember also a session where the
Yes,
feeling
carry on.
was a topic, right? So I think Peter is onto something there. You know, what I would connect it to is the first thing that I think we always need to test for ourselves is, am I comfortable with where I am at right now? Right? So that's the first reclamation if you want to reclaim. So if I feel numb, how does it feel when I say I'm numb? Can that be an okay place, right? Or if I'm livid with anger, how does that sit in me, right? So that's a wonderful exploration, I think, for all of us to make this a very practical tool in everyday life to see how comfortable am I at the place where I'm at.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then the other thing that came to my mind, and Peter, depending on how your connection is, was also to go, well, you know, and maybe that's just what you have to do. It's like the moment, that's what I do today. So when somebody bugs me, annoys me, you know, triggers me in some way, I look for what is the thing, right? Then I say the sentence, and quite often, even just by going through the process, that's already the work in a way, right? So the reclamation is now so fast that it's not this mind-blowing occurrence anymore, right? It's not the spectacle that it used to be. It's sort of a much softer process that is integrating in my life in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
Peter? Oh, okay. Connection is choppy, I would say. Cass, how's that sitting with you?
So it's not working with the big things anymore, but working with lots of small things on a daily, hourly basis, more or less. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yes, I agree with you entirely. Unstable. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Okay. So
Now your sound is gone again, Peter.
Yeah, okay. I think we lost him. Yeah. Yeah. So it's basically that I would say there is a speeding up of this work within us until it can happen in the fraction of a moment, right? And therefore you don't have all of these intense emotions connected to it anymore, because you know you can see somebody, notice you find them self-important, go to I'm self-important and that's okay, and go, yeah, you know, it is. And then you move on, right? Mm-hmm. So it's also a sign of sort of maturing in yourself to get to a place where that is just not such a big deal anymore.
Okay, yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Okay, so let's see who else has a question. Jackson, do you want to come back for a moment?
Oh, I was just gonna comment on how you were explaining it and my own experience of doing reclamations over the years now, is that it's not so much about some huge thing, but just by practicing it all the time, you're steadily shifting the way that you relate to yourself in general and relate to any experience that you have. That whatever you feel, your first reaction becomes, I'm that, and I allow myself to be that, rather than ignoring it or fighting it. And even if there's nothing big, just the fact that you relate to it that way is a big difference.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, so there's something about doing the work. That's the work, right? And it doesn't come with fireworks anymore. At some point, you don't feel like your whole life is coming undone when you work with a projection. It's just something that you do, like, I don't know, it's like flossing teeth at some point, you know? So it's good mental hygiene, I would say. Great. Thank you so much, Jackson. Okay, you know what, actually, before we go, because I don't know if Peter is going to rejoin us here. Oh, he is actually. Let's see if he has any closing statements for us. Hang on, let me see if I can find him here. His mic isn't on yet. Peter, can you hear us? Peter? Okay, you guys, I think that might be the end of our session in a way, but I'd love to share something with you. Peter, can you hear us now? No. Okay. Listen, I want to share this little video clip that Olga found on YouTube, and I think it's just fantastic. I think I need to unpin.
Yeah, hello. I can.
Can you? Oh, hi, Peter. Okay, where are you? Hang on, I need to find you. Okay, what's your closing statement before I share something, Peter?
I can just about hear it. Yeah, I can. Oh.
Okay, Peter, I just wanted to share something with the group that I thought was just a wonderful take on money, and it's a very entertaining little clip on Instagram. Can you guys see my screen? Does that work? No. Okay, let me stop this once more. Hang on, let me see if I can do it. Otherwise, I'll post the link into the chat, and you'll have to look at it yourself. Let me try once more, and then we'll see. Is this working now?
Yes.
Great. Okay, hang on. Let me reload this, and then it will start from the beginning, hopefully. Good, that's good. Oh no, wait.
You have to share the sound.
It is until.
Oh, now it's great.
Hang on, one more.
To be happy and healthy. That is until I discovered capitalism. Now my only goal is to constantly prove my worth to other people. With capitalism, my self-worth is directly tied to my productivity, and so I have transcended from just a human being to a human doing. Amazing. Capitalism is not just an economic and political system anymore. It's also a lifestyle. Get on with it. Hashtag internalize capitalism. Capitalism is so hot that I just can't fight this feeling that no matter what I do, it's just never gonna be enough. If you start subscribing to capitalism today, you can also get consumerism, hustle culture, hyper-individualistic culture, and if you're lucky, feeling dead inside. And don't forget, Jorge exploitation. Escándalo. Unfortunately, capitalism is not free 99, but you know what is? The illusion of choice. So what are you waiting for? Never rest without feeling guilty ever again, and start subscribing to capitalism today. Today!
Okay, so that was a little reel on capitalism that I thought was just absolutely brilliant. Yeah, I'll post it in the chat in case you want to watch it again. Yeah. Anyway, so it's the end of it. Oh, sorry, I think the link didn't work. Here, let's try that one. Peter, any closing statements from your side? I think we have you back.
I think I shouldn't try and say more than bye-bye and thank you, Nadia, and for everybody watching. And,
okay, bye-bye is good enough.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, let's say goodbye,
Bye-bye.
everybody. It's wonderful to have seen you today. Looking forward to see you for the next Ask Me Anything in 6 weeks. Bye.
Thanks,
Bye-bye,
everybody.
everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.